Hello, this is Brian Scuttle with Sonic Cinema. I'm pleased to be joined in this interview by Bao Tran. He is the writer and director of the film The Paper Tigers, playing at Fantasia Fest, and I hope you enjoy the discussion we have. So, what
Great.
what was the inspiration for the Paper Tigers? Sorry.
The inspiration, partly I was really interested in men in middle age and dealing with things because I was starting to become one. um, I think I was really interested in, I think, particularly the theme of these values that we had when we were growing up, and then whether they still hold true as we get older or grow up and grow out of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I was starting to feel, kind of the same way about film, to be honest. So I was, it's something that I really fell in love with earlier on, but then you kind of see the seedier sides and kind of like more kind of the shadows of all the industry and all that stuff. So I was feeling a little burnt out. So I kind of tried to use that and turn that into some type of inspiration and see what could come out of this story, especially in this martial arts type of genre, and see, what that theme would really mean.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this movie. It's one of the most fun movies that I've seen at the fest, and just in general. Like, one of the things I say in my review is that I feel like this is the type of entertainment that we've kind of been deprived of because of theaters closing, and it's just something that's very
Mm-hmm.
light and entertaining, and that's a very welcome change of pace, considering a lot of the other stuff playing at Fantasia Fest. So I did really enjoy it as just a nice entertainment, but as you said, it also has this more thematic material in terms of um getting older, and sort of one of the things that I really like about it is the fact that it's about trying to sort of rediscover, these ideals and these values that, and just the person you were when you were younger, especially during a time where you're not quite sure if you're on the right path, or if it feels like you're not quite on the right path.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Were there any particular
Exactly.
film?
Mhm.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying I appreciate those kind of words. Thank you.
Okay. What were there any particular films that inspired you in making this movie?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of films, we were looking at, I think quite a few things. I think it wasn't necessarily something thematic necessarily. I mean, there was, obviously The Big Chill was something that we had kind of watched very early on, just kind of think about kind of the same type of themes. But obviously, it's a little far removed from what we were doing. Um, I think there was a couple things that we just used as references.
Mm-hmm.
We always thought like we want to do something fun and entertaining like Shaun of the Dead, and kind of do for kung fu movies what Shaun of the Dead did for zombie movies, for example, and still have characters that were grounded and believable and going through things, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that we, kind of want to be spiritual kins with as well. Yeah, in terms of the martial arts, I think it's something that we all knew very well and well versed in seeing all these martial arts movies. But I think we were definitely interested in looking elsewhere also and just seeing how other films were done in other genres and stuff like that. So
I have to say, my personal, I think my single favorite scene in this entire movie is the one where the tigers go back to Carter's um, dojo and confront him
hmm
after the fight with the kids. And I
hmm
Matthew Page's performance in that is, it I liken it to Ben Stiller's performance in Dodgeball. It feels very much like a
oh
Ben Stiller
yeah.
type performance. Uh, what was
hmm
when you were directing him in that scene and just throughout the entire movie? Was there an effort to was were you consciously wanting him to go a bit broader comedically with it to sort of be in contrast with the Tigers, or was it just something that came out of his performance?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of both. If you may or may not know, Matthew has this web series called Into the Dojo, where he does kind of play this Cobra Kai spoof of a macho Emeridotes, the thing of the fist foot way, kind of like this very macho dojo karate owner. So it's a total spoof on that type of thing. So we always knew that, definitely number one, he had comic instincts and very, very humorous abilities, comedy abilities. So that's something that we knew was for sure something we wanted to do, but also something that we wanted to kind of ground it. Again, like going back to what we were wanting to do, definitely be funny, but it's funny because, hopefully it comes across, but what we're trying to show is like that he has this like burning desire for revenge for these tigers for so many years, and finally this, like, his skills are finally at a point where he feel like he can do something about it, and they've obviously gone to pot, so it's just this right moment for him to finally to take it. So, and if he went like really relished it, then that's okay for me, because as long as it felt like it was truthful, and as long as it was something that was like coming from that place of this character wanting to prove himself so badly. So yeah, it was kind of a perfect storm, like you were saying, just both, Matt's instinctual comic abilities, but also that what was happening with the Tigers, like with Ron, I think, who plays Hing, I think was a great sparring partner for him, because Ron's a little fiery on the Tiger side, and then Carter's got that going. So it was just really fun to watch and just let them go. So there were definitely a lot of improv moments for the actors, and definitely let them go. But it was also kind of give them kind of the framework of like what we're trying to do, and just like come from this perspective, and not necessarily go for the joke, but go for something that feels right. But because it feels right, it's going to be funny. That's the hope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, and it definitely does feel right for the character, because, like you said, he is ultimately out for revenge and to prove himself compared to these three, and that sort of brings me to the opening credits when we see them growing up, when we see them starting to learn from their Sifu, and there's. Is that just a VHS like effect that you put on the film in post production, or how did that work in creating that opening titles montage?
Yeah, it was definitely a conversation with my DP Sean Mayor, who figuring out what we were going to do. And I think we were from the start. We knew we wanted to just do it and go for it and shoot it on an analog camcorder. So, because it was definitely reminiscent from our memories in terms of growing up. Number one, making films, with our parents' camcorders and running around in the backyard just trying to make these little, backyard videos. But also just to be able to have a look that you can't, really replicate anymore with these modern doodads, like there's just something real when you kind of record on that camera. So it was funny because there were days when we didn't need the main camera and we had strictly the little camcorder in Sean's hand, and that was the day like we would have a press day and they'd come visit set and they'd see us just running around with this small little camcorder, and they're like, what have they come what are they covering here? So it was pretty funny to kind of really embrace it, and then just like like you were saying, just kind of like go for that look and go for the honesty, because I think it also creates a looseness, and we're not having to redo and retake so much, and the mechanics of everything is much faster because it's just like punch and go,
Yeah, and I will say I do like the touch of having the opening credits played during that sequence in that font, in that classic camcorder font as well. It's like it's almost a blink and you miss it with those credits, because they're so well they don't necessarily stand out from the the rest of the traditional camcorder, what's the date and all that stuff. What
Yeah.
What were
I mean,
some?
we were sticklers, definitely sticklers on that because, I'm sure younger folks probably wouldn't even notice the difference of what it was. But yeah, we definitely wanted to get the look right because, like if anyone remembered, we'll be very particular about it looking right or not. So yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges that you had in making this movie?
Oh gosh, I mean, there was, I think for indie films in the U.S., I think the hardest thing obviously is raising the money. I think we always knew what type of movie we were going to make and knew what we were trying to set out to do. So I think once it came to a point where we had kind of a creative green light to go and make it happen. Yes, there are budget challenges because always, and there's time challenges because there's always part of that. But we kind of knew that was our groove, when we knew how to, achieve the things that we wanted to do. But I think the stuff beforehand, the raising the funds, that was definitely a crash course. Mm-hmm. I think for all of us in figuring out like the finances, the whole packaging, and just the whole legal investment structures and all that stuff, and then pitching, essentially. Well, we did kind of pitch around Hollywood and pitch some studios, but essentially it came down to pitching the community and just anyone that was able to kind of lend us an ear. So yeah, it was definitely kind of like a lot of tap dancing around that. And also we did a Kickstarter, which, I think it's probably one of the most stressful 32 days that we had to do because it was just so, it's just nonstop campaigning. And then like Kickstarter, you may or may not know, it's either you raise all that or you don't. So it's kind of an all or nothing proposition. So it's one of those things that we just kind of like really pushed out and wanted to do and learn. And so that I would say that was definitely the hardest, most taxing because it was the longest period of time that it took. But once we got to the point where we could come on set, it was hard, it was challenging, it was tough. But to me, that's the whole reason you go through all that struggle and sacrifice, so you can get on set and create. So,
were there any particular? Well, you mentioned Shaun of the Dead earlier. Were there any particular filmmakers that you thought about as far as when it came to directing the movie, as far as inspiring you when it came to directing the movie?
I mean, there's always the influences that you had growing up and then instilling. So, I mean, Hitchcock and Billy Wilder and all the Hong Kong cinema, Jackie Chan, Sammo Hung, and Bruce Lee. I mean, those are, huge influences for me as far as like how to go about telling the story and making movies. I think recently, definitely, Edgar Wright, for sure. Taika Waititi, in terms of that time of, I don't know if you saw Jojo Rabbit, but I saw it after we shot it, but it was definitely, it felt like we were on the right path because he was doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I saw like a really great balance of just this drama and pathos and humor. And he just really just thread that needle so beautifully. So it was just definitely something that we saw and just kind of saw okay, that's great. It can be done as far as, especially, with a Hitler,
yeah,
a Hitler coming of age story. So that's incredibly bold and daring. So we weren't trying to do that necessarily, but at least you knew that he stuck the landing. So that was definitely encouraging for us. So you take it all in. I think it's important that, anything we see, we just kind of be good thieves about it and see what we can steal, what can we take, what can we be inspired by, and then keep on feeding that into what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. If you had the opportunity to program this with a double feature of any movie of your choice, do you have a particular one in mind?
Wow, I haven't heard that. It's a very interesting question. And doubleheaders, definitely nostalgic. I have a very soft spot for doubleheaders, so I don't know what the kids these days even know what that means. Maybe it just means the next thing on the binge list. But doubleheaders, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's kind of programmed very thoughtfully. It's one of those things. I'm talking aloud now, so this is funny. It's one of those things where it has to be thematically the same, but also different. And it's one thing if you book it, if it goes first, and then the other movie follows, or vice versa. So it's always something. I mean, Shaun of the Dead, it could be a change to palette.
Yeah.
You watch Shaun of the Dead and then you change the palette, but it's still in the same realm. I think that would be a great doubleheader for us.
Okay. All right. I would also say, if you wanted to go more with an action bent, you could also probably do Hot Fuzz. I think that would be an entertaining one as well. But yeah, it's Sean, and especially considering the tone and sort of the type of movie that you're making. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead makes a lot of sense with that. What are the
all in all? Hopefully, it's a good evening.
Yeah. What are the plans for the movie after Fantasia Fest?
Well, hopefully we do have a few festival opportunities that are coming up, and the announcements for that will be coming out shortly. As you know, I think Fantasia is indicating. I think a lot of fests are going virtual for the rest of this year. So we do have kind of like some opportunities around that. There are some international festivals that are outside of North America that might have the possibility of being physical still. So those are definitely something we'd look forward to announcing when it comes to the right time. But yeah, hopefully we can try to make the best of it and get a really good film festival run, because it's also a way to kind of like reach out and find audiences that we wouldn't be able to have normally, and reach out from there. So yeah.
Yeah, and I do think this will land pretty well with with everybody who sees it this weekend at Fantasia Fest, and I do hope you are able to see it with an audience sometime in the future, because of the fact that I think it would be really entertaining audience movie to watch.
Yeah, and that's kind of our dream and hopes as well. And then, I think there's still a lot of possibilities, hopefully in the future, if we're talking, who knows, half capacity theaters or reduced capacity or drive-ins and stuff like that. We definitely do want this movie to be seen with a crowd, because obviously that's always fun. So I'm on the same wavelength as you.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today, and I'm glad we were able to set this up.
Of course. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, and thank you for reaching out and putting this movie on my radar. I really did enjoy it. It was like I said, it's very much a it's a very welcome change of pace from a lot of the darker movies that Fantasia's program. So I really enjoyed watching it. It was just a wonderful little change of pace.
Great, thank you. I'm glad you like it, and hopefully everyone else can tune in Canada.
Yeah.
At our premiere and encore. So yeah, we'd love. And Fantasia, all the credit to Fantasia. I have to say, what they've been able to put together in such a short amount of time, especially pivoting to virtual. It's incredible what they've done. So we're just happy to world premiere at Fantasia, and hope for the best as we continue on.
Are you doing a Q&A afterwards?
I will be doing a Q&A on our Sunday, August 30th premiere, along with the main cast, so the Tigers and Matthew Page, along with our action director, Ken Kitagora.
Okay, excellent. But it's good to talk to you, and I hope that premiere goes well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.